Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto, and welcome to yet another middle of the day market update. Now this Sunday, I wanted to do a bit of an update for today, but also a bit of preparation for next week. Now, still the audio could be better. I know audio will be better on Tuesday, so hopefully you can bear with me and wait until then. But we'll talk about some very valuable stuff, right? So hopefully you don't mind too much. And I also still have a bit of an eye infection, so the camera hopefully is back tomorrow, right? So you can see me again. But for now, let's get right into it. So the price action so far has not been great. We have seen a bit of a recovery, as you can see so far, but this is more mean reversal, right? Reversion, right? I mean, if you take a look at this move up, it's with low volume. It's over the course of a Saturday and now into a Sunday. I don't really care about a bullish move like this. What I do care about is two things, and that's also technically why I'm a little bit positive here. Although ultimately, and that is also something we'll speak about in a moment, ultimately I think what's going to happen depends a lot on the fundamentals. But what you can see here is that we have a bit of a three drive pattern, right? So where you have these three drives down, and with every drive, the momentum became less, right? I mean, the volume was less. With each move down that we had, and also the RSI actually became higher. So then you have a pretty high or a pretty strong bullish divergence where the volume is dropping down while the price is dropping down as well. That's not a divergence, but that is a show of weakness, and the price is dropping down lower while the RSI is making higher lows, right? So purely technically, I would say it's quite likely that we will see a continuation of this recovery, right? So that if you take a look at the 4-hour time frame, that we can get a bit of a recovery into this major resistance level right here at 115. Maybe even into this value area high and the fair value gap at 116.4. So short term, I'm actually quite bullish, but ultimately what we need to do is we need to reclaim at least 115.2 thousand if we actually want to get bullish again. And at this point of time, I mean, getting bullish again, I mean, is it a possibility? Yes, but it will depend a lot on the fundamentals, right? The fundamentals need to see some sort of a turnaround. And at this point of time, then it's just speculation. I mean, we're not certain if that's going to happen. And if we're not certain that it's going to happen, and the stock market still looks like this, for example, I would say it's better to assume the worst. So that is also what I'm going to do for now. I think, like I said, a bit of mean reversion and a bit of a move up here is quite likely. That's what I expect. But for now, I would say it's more likely that from that level between 115,100 and 116,400, so this zone right here, that from there we will find resistance, and that will drop down lower into that main support level between 112 and 110,000. Now, like I said, ultimately that depends on the fundamentals. I mean, the fundamentals last week and in the last couple of weeks were actually quite good. If you take a look at all the earnings, for example, coming out last week, those were all good. And that's also why we saw a continuously strong S&P 500 over the course of the last couple of weeks. So that has been great. If you take a look at the Coinbase Bitcoin price, that is also trading at a premium at certain points over the course of today. So that's good to see as well. So the fundamentals are definitely not bad. But ultimately, what you have to see is this major pullback right here with the S&P 500. And then mostly the news and the uncertainty around that, right? So the volatility index, the VIX, has increased a lot, which is something you don't want to see. Gold has also moved up within its range. Gold is not breaking out, but it's moving up quite a lot. So there's quite a lot of strength, quite a lot of volume. That mostly has to do with tariffs, but also some things around that, right? So we need to see some sort of either a kind of a step back in that, right? So that maybe we see some more trade deals, maybe we hear about some more nuance, or the market just needs to decide that it doesn't really care that much, which is also a possibility. But both scenarios in which we can actually see a recovery, so where we will do this, but also, recover up higher, depend on how the fundamentals open tomorrow, right? So that is something I will definitely wait for. That is something I think it's best for you to wait for as well. I mean, personally, I do have some positioning, and I also got into some new positioning over the course of the weekend. But in the end, it's better to be safe than sorry, especially when it's uncertain what the market thinks. So that matters a lot. Like I said, I mean, when we're talking about the market, because a lot of the market right now is correlated, I think short term a bit more recovery, maybe with a pullback here into that fair value gap, That is to be expected. Bit of a move up, but then, like I said, unless we see a change in the fundamentals, which I'll be back tomorrow morning. I'll try to keep you updated as soon as I can. But the main things to watch are the volatility index, the S&P 500, and the Coinbase Bitcoin premium or discount, right? So it depends on what's going on there. And then we're either going to do, so let's say, let's put this in the middle. We're either going to see this if there's no change in the fundamentals, or if there's escalation in the fundamentals, or we're going to see this if there's de-escalation, or if we get a good opening tomorrow. So those are my thoughts on Bitcoin and altcoins in general as well, right? Because if you take a look at altcoins, if you take a look at others right here, we're getting a bit of a bounce here from a strong support level. I think that can continue, but then we're either going to do something like this, like I said, if we see de-escalation or if the fundamentals become better, or we're going to see something like this down into that support level at 250 billion if we see escalation or if the fundamentals stay the same. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the markets. And talking about next week. Last week, we had a lot of important economic data. When we talk about next week, to prepare you a little bit more for the rest of the week, we have, let me click this away. Yeah, so Tuesday, we have some PMI data that can matter, but I don't think it very much does. Wednesday, we have nothing. Thursday, we have some Federal Reserve speeches and jobless claims. Doesn't matter that much either. Friday, we have nothing, right? So it's bound to be a volatile week because of the fundamentals, but there's not a lot of economic data or economic events that you need to be aware of. I mean, you should be watching the news and you should be keeping track of the headlines, but that's about it. So when we're talking about some of the majors here, so XRP, my thoughts are still the same. The main support level right here between 2.8 and 2.6. I expect that on the short term to hold. That does mean that short term, I think we can drop down a little bit lower before finding support and getting some stability. And then from that stability, I hate to say this, but again, it depends a lot on the fundamentals, whether from that stability, so something like this, whether we can actually get another move up, or whether we're going to get a continuation down lower into 2.4 and 2.5. And Ethereum has dropped down a little bit lower as well, as expected. Yesterday, the main level that I spoke about was 3,350, 3,150. So I also do think this is going to drop down a bit lower before we can find support. And from that support, again, depending on the fundamentals, going to move up or get a continuation down lower. But that is something I'll keep you updated on. For now, I think that's what you need to know. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next videos, and bye.